So we use Sales Loft for all of our outreach, cadences, campaigns, things of that nature. I would say on average, we have 14 to 18 touch points per cadence. And depending on the company, I could have over 100 people from the same company in different cadences. But typically the way I like to structure it is bringing over 15 people a day per account into a cadence. That way, if I build a list that has 200 people from a certain account, if I space it out day by day, it ensures that I always have a steady flow of activities to take each and every day. So I'll bring, anywhere from 15 to 45 people into a cadence every day. Every time I start with an email. So the first touch point they're going to get from me is an email, just so at least my name or Seismic's name has crossed their mind once before I call them. Then the next touch point is going to be a call. And actually, what we find the most success with when it comes to booking meetings is that first call. We book the most meetings on our first call. Typically, if folks have had, 10 calls from us and they haven't answered yet or they haven't agreed to a meeting yet, it's probably not going to happen. But we have a lot of success on those early touch points with folks, which is why you want to make sure that that first email you're sending is jam packed with context and personalization. After that, a couple nurture touches like, hey, any thoughts here? Or maybe some facts from a case study. But you really want to make sure that at the beginning of the funnel, you're hitting them with a lot of context and a lot of personalization. And that way, when you're hitting them on the phone and they answer, you know exactly what your pitch is going to be. So to answer your question, I think we have around 14 to 18 touches per cadence. I'm having anywhere from 20 to 60 people in a cadence at a time. And that just makes so when I get into work in the morning, I have my activity set out for me, and I have a lot of calls and emails to make, as well as LinkedIn messaging and LinkedIn requests as well. As a company, on average, we're probably on the higher end of that.
Hiring.
Yeah, I know our quota for each segment is 10 meetings booked per month. Nowadays, anytime I can get an email response, I'm happy with it. But I would say, yeah, anywhere in that for reply rate, anywhere within that 3 to 4%, I'd say is pretty good. We are sending a lot of emails to a lot of different people. So there's just so many barriers to folks even reading your emails or seeing your emails. And at least my own personal experience is 80% of my success comes from cold calling. So I'd say anywhere in that 3 to 4% email reply rate is pretty good. Yeah, honestly, the latter. We don't do a whole lot with ads. Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up, but we don't do a whole lot with that at Seismic. Making sure you're up to date on account, what's going on with the accounts is obviously extremely important. I'd say I just rely heavily on one, CRM data, and two, having a good relationship with my AE, right? If my AE is reaching out to an account that I'm also reaching out to, I want to know who they're talking to, so I make sure I'm not, stepping on anybody's toes or sending somebody an email who's already actively engaged with my AE. So the first thing first is if me and my AE are on the same page with everything, I know that all outreach is going to the right places. Then I can then use my CRM data to say, hey, exactly like you said, I talked to this person in January. They said follow up with me in 2 to 3 months. Go to the activity slide on Salesforce and say, okay, nobody's reached out. It's now 2 months later. I can go back and reach out and use this in my messaging. So I heavily rely on CRM data for that. Also going down to the opportunity level and saying, hey, has this person ever met with us in the past? And has there ever been an open opportunity under them? If so, what are the notes attached to that opportunity? What was important to them back then? And are those things still important to them today? And I'm going to ask them about that when I talk to them. So yeah, really just making sure as an SDR, I think the most important thing is being tight and on a good schedule with your AE. If you and your AE are on the same
True.
page, you can accomplish a lot of good things. Because if you have no idea what your AE wants you to be doing, where they want you to focus your time, you're never going to be successful because you're walking in the dark, right? You need to make sure that that's your partner and you guys are doing this thing together. And I've had a lot of success just being dialed with my AEs. So we have both an MQL and an RAD campaign. So RAD, pretty self-explanatory, but if anybody comes inbounds and let's say they requested a demo on our website, if they're in one of my accounts, they'll be immediately sourced to me, and I'll then get to reach out, book that meeting, have the cycle, pass it over to my AE. But then similarly with MQLs, marketing qualified leads, if anybody from one of my accounts is, for example, if they have a high volume web session on the Seismic website, or if they interact with some content we've sent over to them, even if it's not exactly somebody requesting a demo, if we can track that they've maybe had even a little bit of interest in Seismic, that will also get routed to me and I'll get to reach out there. As you can imagine, that one's a bit of a harder get because they didn't request a demo, but just knowing that they know who Seismic is, again, is a good foot in the door. So we get access to both of those inbound motions, and they've honestly been pretty fruitful so far.